Broadcasting live from the Business Radio X studios in Phoenix, Arizona, it's time for Phoenix Business Radio, spotlighting the city's best businesses and the people who lead them.
Good afternoon and welcome to Collaborative Connections radio show and podcast sponsored by KLM Consulting. I'm your host, Kelly Lorenzen, and we are live in studio with Bob coming in on Zoom with you here today. And I have three amazing guests on the show that I'd love to introduce you to. So with that, I will introduce you first to Jeff Smith with Alpha Pest Control. Welcome, Jeff.
Hello. Thanks for having me here today. It's a pleasure.
Absolutely. Bitsie Fort, Realty One Group. Thank you so much for being in the studio with us today.
Thank you for having me.
And Bob Goodrich, my friend for a long time and now mortgage banker. Well, you've been a mortgage banker too for a long time with Watermark Home Loans. Thanks for coming on the show with us today.
Thanks, Kelly. It's a pleasure to be on your show.
So we'll jump right into it. Today, our goal is for listeners and guests alike to walk away with a golden nugget or a new resource for your business. So with that, I'd love to have the listeners hear a little bit more about your businesses, and I will tee it up with how and why I brought you all on the show today. Jeff Smith with Alpha Pest Control is a client of mine, and I always love highlighting my clients so we can all hear the amazing businesses that we have here locally. So tell us a little bit about Alpha Pest Control and your background, Jeff.
Oh, hello. Well, it's a pleasure being here today. Thank you for having me, Kelly, and everyone else. It's going to be a good conversation, I believe. Yeah, I am the owner of Alpha Pest Control here in the Valley. Been around since 1987. We take care of all sorts of pest control needs, and sure we'll get in that more later. But my background, I originally was accounting and finance major, and I did that for a number of years, but I wanted to own my own business, and this opportunity came about and happened. So about 15 years ago, I took over Alpha Pest Control. I've been growing it for the community. So it's that's a little bit without talking too much about myself, but I'm pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, Bitsie, you're up.
All right. So again, I'm Bitsie Fort. I have been in residential real estate here in the Valley of the Sun for 20 years. June's my 20-year anniversary, in fact. And so I've had the opportunity to just serve so many amazing clients over the years. And I help people buy, help people sell, and my niche is truly just residential. I leave the commercial and the property management and all that to those experts. So have a lot of fun.
Nice. And you're with Realty One Group, and what team?
So I'm with the Jason Crittenden team, and we're one of the top teams actually in the country, and one of the top with Realty One Group. And I was solo for about 15 years and decided that my clients could really benefit from what a team would bring to me as far as the added coverage and just the added, we have some really good tech experts. We have our own photographer, videographer that works for us. So combining our resources, the team really presents the best of all worlds for my clients.
I love that. I advocate a lot for building that team around you, no matter if you're a solopreneur, if you're growing your own team, growing in real estate, or no matter what industry you're in, surrounding yourself with all those people that can, help each other. And I love that. And Bob Goodrich, tell us a little bit about your background and about Watermark.
So I've been in the lending industry in the beautiful state of Arizona for 24 years now, and I'm with Watermark Home Loans, and we do everything from we strictly do residential, and we do everything from first-time homebuyer loan programs to FHA, VA, jumbo. We do a little bit of everything, and everything's done here locally, so we can provide the best customer service. And the thing I really love about my job is just working with the families and some of my great clients and helping people get into homes and making the process as easy and as stress-free as possible. I know there's a lot of anxiety with lending, and so I try to take that out of the equation as much as possible.
It is a stressful process. I owned a real estate practice. I wonder if we ran into each other back then, Bitsie.
We sure may have.
in 2002 to 2007, I said, I think it was 5 years, but it felt like 100 because we were working 100 hours a week back then, right?
Right, we were.
in the crazy time, and I'm sure you guys are seeing that now in the market again, working more than overtime. I'm sure both Bob and you can attest to the market.
Exactly. We have such flexible hours, don't we, Bob?
Yeah, it's the really nice thing about our jobs is we can flex our hours, but then the other side to that sword is that then you flex your hours
Exactly.
and you work on weekends and sometimes you're working at night. So, but yeah, we do whatever it takes to help our clients when they need us.
Absolutely.
So speaking of mortgage side of things, interest rates, give us a little rundown on what's been happening with interest rates, Bob.
Sure. So I know a lot of people are asking about the rates, and I get that question all the time. Where do you think they're going? You know, it's hard to tell. None of us really know what's going to happen. But right now, the rates are still really good. You know, with your typical conventional buyer, they can get a rate probably just under 3% to maybe 3.1, depending on their credit and down payment. So 3% is a great rate, and it really makes a home affordable. And compared to like when Kelly and I used to work together, and she actually helped me sell and buy a home, did a great job back in the early 2000s. But back then, if you got a rate of 5.5%, that was pretty darn good.
That's what I was going to say. Oh my gosh. And you're saying 3%. I'm like, oh my gosh, our buyers would have been so happy back. I mean, back then.
So the rates are really low relative to where they've been. And so I think what we're seeing right now is rates are really stable. And so it gives the buyers a lot of buying power. And based on the one thing that we are seeing is that the long-term trend is that the rates will start to go up. We've had super low rates for a long time because the Fed's been kind of holding them lower. The Fed just had a meeting yesterday and they were talking about inflation, and they were predicting a 2.5% roughly inflation rate. And right now they're saying they're seeing it more around 3.4. So the consensus right now is the Fed is going to leave things alone until the job market strengthens, but they're talking about raising the rate a couple times in 2023. So with that being said, rates are great right now. They're not going to, based on what we're seeing, they're not going to go through the roof anytime soon. But I think the long-term trend over the next several years is they're slowly going to go up. And that's kind of where they're heading right now, but they're still great.
Mm-hmm. I heard that with inflation, that can have an effect on it. And so it's probably better to do it now if you're gonna do something.
Yeah, and I agree, because some people right now are saying, well, the price of homes is really going up. Maybe I should just wait. Well, and you can do that, but unless you think inflation is going to kind of stall or go the other way, the longer you wait, the more you're probably going to end up paying, for the house and then also with your rate. So I think that you don't want to pay way too much for a house and get caught in a bidding war on one particular home. But I think it's still a great opportunity to lock in a low rate and a low payment. So I think it's a great time to purchase.
What about you, Bitsie? What are you seeing? I know that's a big hot topic with, I'm sure, buyers and sellers. What are you telling people?
Yeah, absolutely. And Bob hit right on it. That's what people are asking me. They said, well, shouldn't we wait? I'm going to wait until the crash comes, and then I'm going to buy something else. And when people say the crash, they're thinking back to, the mid to late, 2000s, as we were talking about, 7, 8, 9. But that was an actual anomaly. And that happened, as Bob can attest to. There were some lenders working in their back bedroom, doing some horrible loans. You basically needed a pulse and to be able to sign some of those, to be able to sign your name and get a loan back then. So there were just a lot of bad loans being made, and adjustable rate mortgages and things people just couldn't afford. We didn't have the jobs numbers to support it. It was a totally different time. Yes, the real estate market has its peaks and its dips, but that crash was a real anomaly. And so the experts that know a lot more than I do, that I tend to listen to, we really don't think that's happening this time. And it's just what Bob said about the rates. Yes, you can wait, but just like Bob said, that the inflation numbers that are being projected, the home that you are able to get into for $500,000 today at even if the rates were at 3.5%, if the rate just went up to 4.5%, that's a great interest rate. All of a sudden now you can only spend $424,000. And if it goes up to 5.25%, which the first time I got that, I thought I'd won the lottery. But if it goes up to 5.25%, now you're spending in the high 300s is all you can afford for that same monthly payment that you could afford today and get that $500,000 house. So no, I don't think waiting's the thing to do.
Yeah, talking to the experts, right?
Yeah.
Speaking of homes, Jeff, are you seeing people, are most of your clients, when they first move into a house, are you getting that because of the real estate market? Is that affecting your business? Getting more people like, oh my gosh.
There's a lot of people moving in new homes or leaving a home and moving into a new home. So it does affect it somewhat. And the conversation you had about rates and stuff, I mean, I'm not an expert on rates, but one little tidbit I just ran into, I have a VA loan on my house, and no one ever really talks about VA loans, but there's lots of veterans out there. And there's a thing called a IRL, which I didn't even know about, but I know about now. And the rates on those are like 2.25%. So lots of VAs don't even know about that. So I thought that would be something kind of for the listeners to know about that no one ever really touches on when they're talking about loans. So
wow, I hadn't heard about that. Bob, what do you know about that for our thankful for our veterans, Jeff?
Yeah, that's a great benefit for veterans. And so if you have an existing VA mortgage, you can do an interest rate reduction loan, and it's a real streamlined process. So it's an easier process than the typical transaction, and the rates for VA loans are really low. They're typically at least 0.5% below market. So you can get a great rate by doing that as well. So yeah, that's a great program. And we work with a lot of veterans and do a lot of FHA and USDA loans as well. And so it's a great benefit. So yeah, if you haven't refinanced and you have a VA loan, it's a great time to look at it.
Well, on a whole nother note, changing the subject a little bit, except for houses, right? We're a lot of us are homeowners, and when we move into a house or when we're looking to buy a house and we are scared by the new scorpion infestation or the termites, tell us a little bit about some of the things that we can do, as homeowners, maybe for prevention of those things, or, we just moved into this house and now we have termites.
Oh yeah, moving into a new house, prevention is always a key when it comes to pests, especially if you're looking more to the greener side of things. So when you move into the house, you have all this stuff and you just throw it everywhere, which is actually harborage places for pests. So the sooner you can get everything put away up off the ground in its place, that's better for you. And especially like new homes or even a home that's existing that you move into, for like pigeons and things, there's all sorts of things you should bring in a pest professional to look at it and say, maybe you should think about this or think about that. It's always cheaper and easier to do it before it's a problem than waiting till after it's a problem. But majority of clients that come to pest control, they're like never had a problem in their life, and all of a sudden they have all these problems, whether it's termites, pigeons, scorpions, whatever. And then it's always harder to deal with. And then also with termites, a lot of people when they buy a new house, they rip up all the flooring in the house. They want to redo the whole thing, and the contractor comes in. They just put new flooring down and make everything look nice and pretty. But one thing that people don't think about is when you pull up all the flooring, there's all these cracks in the floor and the foundations. Perfect entry point for termites in the house. So I always say, if you're doing renovations, and there's all sorts of products and things, whether you're redoing a bathroom, we can put liquid on 2x4s and stuff, so it creates any bug that might want to go in there won't survive. So all sorts of features with wood destroying insects that we have available to us. But definitely if a client or anyone is doing a renovation, it's definitely something to think about. So
Kelly, I'd love to interject. So my favorite, Jeff does pest control at my house, and I have all manner of things that have gone on at my house. We have a little bit larger property, so we have lots of critters, but I want him to talk about his mosquito buckets. So this Southern girl moved here and was so happy not to have mosquitoes here 23 years ago when I moved here. In the last 10 years, the mosquitoes have come around, and we were absolutely dying at our new place. And Jeff has, let him tell you about his mosquito buckets, has changed my life, completely changed my life. So people need to know about, I don't think anyone knows about them. People need to know about this.
Oh, I appreciate that a lot. So Yeah, these mosquito buckets, I started using them a few years ago, maybe 3 to 5 years ago. But the concept of them is basically it's just looks like a 5 gallon bucket with a special insert in it. It's trying to create the habitat which mosquitoes love to breed in, whether so standing water, but it's inside of a bucket contained and it's made to attract them. It's all green, natural. There's nothing, no pesticides or anything with it. You set them up around your property, and the mosquitoes go to lay eggs. But when they go to lay the eggs can never reach the water, which they need to hit in order to, uh, become a mosquito. So by that doing that, mosquito can lay 1,000 eggs in no time. So imagine 1,000 extra mosquitoes from just one
Oh,
female mosquito. So by putting these buckets out, it greatly reduces the amount of mosquitoes. And I think it's a fabulous product. If everyone in a neighborhood had them, everyone would be, doing much better than, one off here or there. So it's good to have on your property, but it's also good to talk to your neighbors about it. So and it's cost effective.
Amazing.
It's not that expensive. And if you like enjoying your backyard, which is nice most of the time out here, you definitely need them. So
Yeah.
wow. Yeah. Can we buy them for our neighbors?
Right. I just about would.
You back to the renovation thing. I wondered. I should have asked you while we were gutting our house about that. People don't think about that. Like when they buy a new house, and that would be something to talk about to them. Oh, you're going to do some renovations. Oh, by the way, when you gut those floors, do this sealant or do these things. Just call Jeff, right? He'll figure it
definitely.
out. Or like Bob, are you seeing a lot more people refinancing right now? Or just saying forget it and buying something new and not remodeling?
Right now we're seeing a lot of refinances and renovations. So a lot of people that have been in homes for a while that were maybe on the fence about buying a bigger house or a better house, some of them are looking at just refinancing and renovating. So we're seeing more of that as well, because for somebody that's been in a house for 10 years and it's not quite up to the upgrades they want, they can put 100,000 into it and they're spending less than buying a new home. For some people, it's a good option. So we've been seeing a lot of that, and a lot of renovation with the cash out. So and then I do have a follow up for Jeff. So my wife and I did that 2 years ago, and we renovated our house completely. It's an older brownstone, and so when we took out our middle wall between the kitchen and the bathroom, we found a lot of termites. And so we had it treated, but long term, what would you suggest to somebody who's going to be in a house long term? What would you suggest to handle the termites? Because I didn't even realize that we had them, and it seems like almost every house that's been built and it's over 10 years old has them. What's the best way to kind of abate that and handle that?
Well, if it's along the exterior of the house, especially coming in from that direction, the best thing is either doing a liquid treatment, or one thing I really like doing nowadays is a baiting treatment, because they're working 24/7, 365 days a year. So basically, these stations, you place them about every 10 to 15 feet around your home, and the termites come to them, and they eat the product, they transfer it between each other, and it has complete colony collapse within a short period of time. And there's on an acre, there could be 20 or 40 different termite colonies on an acre. They're just out there eating underground that you'd never know. So you could kill one colony and another colony comes by later and eats it. So it's a really good product that no one really talks about. Most people are used to the liquid trenching and drilling, which causes, people don't like their concrete drilled and stuff on their house. So that's one thing. But on inside, we would definitely drill where there's cracks and put the liquid underground. I mean, since it's covered, it's going to last for years because it's protected by the house and the earth underneath. So, but if you're doing a remodel on a bathroom, you tear out the shower and you're putting a new tub surround and you have all the fresh 2x4s in there that are clean and new and no one's ever taken one chunk out of it, either whether a termite or any type of wood destroying insect, we can spray it with a liquid called Bore Care, which is excellent. It goes on clear, it dries, and over time it penetrates in the wood more and more. And it's a boric product, so it's a natural product, and it seals up that wood. So anything years down the road that comes up through a crack and wants to eat that wood is going to die. So,
Oh, wow, that's pretty cool. I've never heard of that product.
yeah, it never goes away. I wish more builders would do it when they're building at least spray the seal plate when they do it,
Mhm.
and then like you'd be golden with the house. So, but it's one of those little extra expenses, I guess, that never gets done. So
Yeah, but if you already have the house all torn up like we did, well, the guy who did the drilling for the termites when we first moved in, oops, and a little fix turned into now, two redos of plumbing and all that. It would have, I mean, what's another, I mean, how much is it to, like, oh, here, let's just add this to, while you have the floors open and you have the 2x4s open. I mean, it can't be that much more if you're already doing all the remodel.
yeah, it's way more expensive, and for the peace of mind, the knowing that's protected, and that there's so many products out there, but we try to focus only on the really premium superior products because I don't have to worry about your house, and whether it's like 2 or 3 owners down the road, I don't want them to worry about it either. So I only use great products and put them the way they're supposed to be applied. And there's many options with termites, so it's something you really need to talk to a professional about. But definitely, like, the worst thing I do is put in a lot of new flooring, especially brand new wood flooring. You have a termite issue. The only way to get to it would be
Man.
drill through it. So it's way cheaper and just peace of mind, really, that your house is protected if you do it while everything's opened up. So
Shoulda, coulda, woulda. That's okay. I'll keep passing on the message to everybody else.
I had this quick story. I had this one client recently. It was an office building, and it wasn't sitting on concrete. It was a bottom floor, but it was like you couldn't tell till you got in there. But it was a wood floor kind of up, but it had carpet on it, so you would never know it was a wood floor in this office building. And the client had, boxes laying all around his office of storage of files. And there's one he probably hadn't moved for a few years. They moved it, and it all fell apart, and the whole bottom of the box was eaten up by termites. So
Oh,
it
my
happens to people's chairs they never move in their house, all sorts
Oh,
of
my.
things. So it's definitely better to treat that flooring before you put anything down.
Oh my gosh. Shifting gears a little bit, are there, Bob, COVID, we're luckily on the tail end of it. Are there still any restrictions, lending restrictions due to COVID?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So when COVID first hit, nobody knew what was going to happen. And a lot of people were worried that the economy was going to crash like it did back in 2008. There was a lot of uncertainty. And in the lending industry, when there's uncertainty, a lot of times the investors try to take a lot of the risk out of the equation, and they make things harder and more difficult, or they put restrictions in place. So we had a lot of COVID restrictions, especially self-employed borrowers and commissioned and that type of thing that came into play. We're seeing those slowly, they're starting to ease off. The biggest change that we've seen is with jumbo lending. When COVID first hit, some of those lenders just pulled out of the market completely. So it was really hard to get a jumbo loan. So we've seen those investors come back, and they're feeling good about the prospect of the economy and the risk. So the kind of the good news right now is jumbo loans are coming back. They're loosening up. So that's getting a lot better. The restrictions that are still in play a little bit that people should be aware of is for like self-employed clients right now. And if you're self-employed, there's a lot of COVID paperwork that you have to do. We're going to look closely at your P&L statements, your bank statements, things that clients would never think that we'd even ask for a few years ago now are commonplace. So we're seeing improvement. And I think as the economy gets stronger, that the restrictions will go away. But for now, we still, with self-employed clients, we just have to be careful with that. And I always prep them ahead of time to let them know what's going on. But for your typical W-2 salary earner who's buying a home with a conventional VA or FHA loan, everything's good right now.
Most of my clients, I should say all of my clients, are self-employed. So I do talk to, I mean, that's good to bring up that side of it. I do talk to them about, forming the LLC early, right when you start, and, and having that all in place. Now, okay, now find your accountant. Okay, now, start to do the P&Ls. But I'm thankful you brought that up, because it's one more thing. Oh, and by the way, as all of us business owners, guess what? When you go to buy a house, you got to prove not all the money's just in your business. You've got to show your your P&L. So thanks for bringing that up for all my clients who are also homeowners. Good. That's good to know. Bitsy, are you seeing any restrictions still from COVID on your side of things?
Not so much. We did, and like Bob said, no one, this was unprecedented. No one really knew what to do. And the first week or two, everyone was kind of quiet. Had one transaction fall out, someone was afraid of losing their job, that kind of thing. And then once things kind of settled down, really in my world, things were just quiet for maybe 4 or 5 weeks. And then, and things got busy again. And really the only thing we saw that was different was that, homeowners asked us to, wear a mask, wear gloves when we came in to show their house, understandably. Some were more strict than others, where they didn't allow anything to be touched. We'll leave the closet doors open, don't touch anything. And I had clients where normally I would just have you hop in my car if we were going to see several homes, and I would drive us around, that preferred to drive themselves, and those kinds of things. But for the most part, I think people are vaccinated and people are a little more comfortable now. So on my end, I'm really not seeing it. Obviously, like my clients are affected, just like Bob said. There's still the lending restrictions, and I always try to prep my clients for that. I tell them kind of tongue in cheek, hey, just so you know, it's not the lender's fault. The underwriter requires these things, and when Bob asks you for your third grade report card, you need to produce it, and then you're going to want a letter from your teacher explaining the C-. And it's about that crazy. But I try to help out by prepping my buyers for that.
Thanks, Bitsie. I appreciate that.
In that industry, you are both the bad guys.
Exactly.
When I was in the business, I'm like, I promise I'm just the middleman. I'm just communicating this and that. And, it's hard to understand. Jeff, are you seeing any leftover restrictions or people, worried still about with your business and COVID?
I mean, there are still certain people that are super cautious, but most people that I know have had their shots already, so they're a little more open about things. But in my business, most of everything is done from the outside. We rarely like to go inside people's houses anyway, because our whole goal with general pest control is to create a good barrier around the house so that there's really no need. We try to create 2 or 3 layers of product between your outside wall of your property and your house, so that anything that gets to your house is going to be dead, if not already, by the time it gets there. So so inside is really not a need, which most of our clients appreciate anyway, because they don't need to be home. It makes it really flexible in so many different ways. But there are still, if we go inside, we have booties we can wear masks. Everyone takes their temperature, obviously, to make sure that no one's going sick. It's super heightened now with sickness, that we make sure no one's coming to work with any type of temperature or anything. So
that's good. I didn't even think about that, but if you create enough barrier on the outside, I never had my inside done because I was just worried about the kids. You have little kids and dogs and everything. So that's nice to hear that if people don't want it inside, you can just do it outside.
Yeah, most of everything can be done outside, and the products, the key to any product out there is just using the right product in the right way. So you don't really need to spray a lot of product. You just need to apply it in the proper manner, in the proper place, and it's going to make a world of difference. So there are rare instances where, it's usually a newer client where we need to go in and do something on the inside, but rarely do we need to do that. So
that's really nice. And you have green alternatives, right? So tell us about those, because all of us eco-friendly, or at least my child is making me be very cautious about what how we're affecting the environment. So tell us about that.
Yeah, the eco it kind of starts from just we call it kind of an integrated pest management solution in the business, but it's basically inspecting the property, seeing what could be habitats for insects, what could be causing them, conditions conducive, and really having a conversation with the client. These are things that should be remedied. And then there's also simple things as like putting glue boards around the house, around entry points, like in the garage or the doors, that one, they're monitoring more than anything to make sure if something's coming in or if there's a hot spot that we're going to know where it is. And then 2, that we can correct it with some type of, there's several different versions of more green products out there, but The big misnomer about green products, pretty much all the products out there, whether they're natural products or not, are safe if you use them correctly and put it down correctly. It's usually the homeowner that is the reason why there's so many restrictions on them, because they like, oh, if I use 3 times as much, it's going to do 3 times as good. And that's not really the case. You're just wasting money and you're actually polluting the environment. So just having conversations like that, but just using the right products in the right manner, because anything that's going to kill an insect has toxicity, whether it's natural or not. So the percentage of dosage and the toxicity level of a lot of the not non-natural products are actually better than natural products, which everyone thinks the word natural, it's better for you, but it really isn't. There's a lot of natural products in the world that are really dangerous to people and pets and stuff. So
Mosquito buckets, totally non-toxic.
non-toxic, it's just water and alfalfa hay
That's
I
right.
put in it. So
That's as green as you can get.
yep.
Oh, that's awesome. Speaking of that, you've been in the business a long time. Bitsie, you've been in the business a long time, and so has Bob. In lending, in real estate, in pest control. In my business, we have lots of people in the business, right? There's lots of people in our industries, let's say, right? So some would say competitors. But if you've been doing it so long, these little tricks, these, ways to help people better, right? Doing good business, as the conscious capitalism stuff on the, on the wall, right? So tell us, what makes it better to have somebody who's been in the business a long time? And I'll ask each of you. So Jeff, you get to start. Why would, instead of just Googling pest control Tempe, and just picking the first one on the list, and, why would you pick somebody that has great reviews online, or, has been in the business a long time?
Well, one thing I noticed with a lot of clients are DIYers, which is great, if you can do it, but um, basically they go through 6 months of like struggle and frustration, and they spend way more money than they would hiring a professional, and it's still not corrected. It's like actually gotten worse because they made it worse because they're using there's products out there that are repellents and non-repellents, and depending on what the insect is or the pest, you could like if you have German roaches inside your house in the kitchen where they normally are, and you use a repellent, you're just going to spread them all over the house.
Ugh.
So but a pest professional can come in and put some baits down. And another reason to hire a professional, because sometimes people put the wrong products down, and you have to basically those are going to make our products, the right products, less effective, because we're trying to put the right product down, but you already have, which is invisible, repellent. So just that's one quick little example. I think it was quick. I don't know if it's quick, but
That's perfect. Yeah, to have we should all, that's my favorite line, is do what you're good at and outsource everything else, including at your house, right? And nobody would have think like, my husband, oh, I can do it, just spray a little this and spray a little that, but then you don't know what, if what you don't know, the damage you can do, or now you're just wasting money. I mean, you might as well just be pouring money down the drain, right?
yeah, like the example of a German cockroach problem, I could resolve your problem within a few days using the right products in the right area, where I've had many clients call me after like 6 months and they just exasperated the issue.
Oh my
So
gosh.
would you rather have it done with less money, more effectively, quicker, in a couple of days, or would you want to like just stress yourself out for 6 months about it? Really, is it doing yourself really worth it? I don't know.
Nope, not at all. Bitsie, what about you? Everybody knows a realtor, right?
Yeah. The joke is that when a police officer pulls you over in Arizona, they ask for your real estate license, because not everyone has a driver's license. And it's kind of true. And everyone's got a cousin and a sister and a best friend and a brother-in-law that just got their real estate license, and they kept their day job because, they want to do it on the side. Or I run into agents all the time who are brand new, and they just go out into the world without any mentoring, without anybody helping them. And I have a ton of respect for a new agent, because I was one 20 years ago and took really good care of my clients. But you really have, if it's somebody new, they need to be full-time. You need to make sure they're getting really good mentoring and really good instruction. And there's just a matter of experience. Over 20 years, Bob can attest to that. It sounds like he's been in the mortgage business longer than I've been in real estate. There's nothing that will teach you like time. And there's new situations all the time, and we learn to troubleshoot and problem solve. And this is just not the market to let your sister-in-law who just got her license help you buy or sell a home. There's just too many variables. It's really, really hard to be a buyer right now. You really have to know not only every trick of the trade, but you need to be that agent that has the reputation of being having a lot of integrity, being great to work with, because the agent on the other side that's reviewing the 20 offers that came in, they're just liable to say to their seller, oh goodness, I know her. I've worked with her before. She's a pro. She'll make sure this goes smoothly for us. And, you know, when all things are equal, that can make the difference for your client.
Absolutely. I know, I know Bob and I loved that. At least when we worked together, it was like, oh, good. Oh, phew. We know this, you know, we know this agent, or we know this title company or this mortgage person. Like, oh, good. This is going to be easy. Or this is like, oh, please don't, please don't let us use them.
And it's so true with the lenders too. Believe me, as you know, I just absolutely will almost threaten to throw myself in front of a bus if I've got a buyer that wants to use their brother-in-law that's doing lending now in his spare bedroom. And I plead with my buyers to work with someone like Bob, who does it full time, who knows the industry, who's been through all these crazy different variables in all these different markets. It means everything to the success of the transaction.
Oh, it sure does. Bob, what about you? You know, tell us, I know for some people don't know the difference between mortgage brokers and bankers, and why choose somebody who's been in the business a long time?
Sure. So the difference between brokers and bankers is typically a broker will have a few more options, sometimes where they can do loans and send them other places or have niche products. Big bankers at like big banks are kind of a little restricted. They do have the money to lend and do the loans they want to do, but their guidelines can be really restrictive because they're moving a lot of loans through and they don't want to make exceptions. And so with my company, we're a kind of a banker shop that is kind of like a brokerage as well. We have all the options, but then we have our own money as well. So it gives us kind of a unique niche where we can be really flexible, and then we can go out and be nimble and do any type of niche product that's out there. But I agree with Bitsie 100% about the experience. I think experience is the most important thing. And anytime I look for somebody, let's say an agent or pest control or any service, the first thing I look at is how long have they been doing it? You know, because if they've been in the business a long time and they have a good reputation, chances are that they're good at what they do and they've learned. And so I think experience makes a huge difference, and more so in this market right now, because as Bitsie mentioned, it's super competitive. So if you're out there and you're a buyer, you're competing. I mean, it's not easy. It's not like it used to be, like, let's say 3-4 years ago. So if you don't have a good lender that's on it and you don't have a good agent that's on it, you're not going to get under contract. You're going to waste a lot of time. You're going to be frustrated. So I think the experience makes a huge difference. And just for me, I know over my 24 years of being in the business, you know, when I first started, I made mistakes just like everybody does, but I've learned from those mistakes. And so when I go to qualify a client and something's a little different, then I notice that right away and I raise it up to my underwriters and make sure we get it cleared before they write a contract. And that way I sleep well at night. My transactions are smooth. My agents like me. They don't get stressed out. And the other thing too is the partners too is, you know, you had mentioned about when you work with people that you trust and are experienced. And when I work with agents that have been out there for 10, 20 years or more, it just puts my mind at ease. It makes me feel better because nothing against new agents. And there's a lot of great ones out there. And 10 years from now, they're going to be even better. But some of them that don't have the experience yet and don't have the mentoring, they don't know how to, they might not know how to write the contract just right, or they might make a mistake or miss something. And then that creates stress and issues for the buyers down the road. So I agree with Bitsie 100%. And the experience to me is one of the biggest things.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of experience, most of our listeners are business owners. Like I mentioned, tell us from a business ownership perspective, Jeff, something you've learned over the years, some advice or a tip or something you wish you would have known, back when, owning the business, you jumped into this full bore, right? You were in a whole nother industry. Any takeaways, any little tidbits as a business owner?
Well, one of the good pieces of advice I got early on was have a infrastructure around you. So like have a great accountant, which I think we spoke about earlier, having a good lawyer, and having, most importantly, more than all that probably, is someone within your own industry that you can bounce ideas off of, that has more experience than you. And one thing I'm fascinated about, I've been listening about it more and more, is peer groups. And I'd be excited to get in like a peer group. I know there's networking and stuff, but it'd be nice to be in a peer group of people. So that's one thing I'm looking forward to trying to create or get into one here in the near future. But I think having those main three things, an accountant, a lawyer, and someone that has tons of experience, whether like me, I know distributors out there that have been in the business and they're 75 years old, or and they've been in it for 50 years, and lots of good information. And in my business, everyone is open and they're not like trying to hoard all their nuts, they're just like willing to talk to you. And there's lots of vendors out there too, probably most of us have, that you just think you buy products from, but no, they're there to educate you. They have all sorts of resources for you. So just being open and to new ideas and learning. And like I've learned so much just because I'm open to ideas and talking to people, so networking. So that's probably the best piece of advice I could give anybody.
That's awesome. Bitsie, what about you?
Yeah, so that's having peers that you trust and you can go to, because no matter how long you've been in the business, a new situation pops up. So that's huge for me, is to have my peers that I trust, that I can say, hey, what do you think about this situation? But when you think about advice or little tidbits, I think of one piece of advice I was given and one I kind of figured out on my own. My wonderful friend who mentored me in this business when I started, I was super nervous I'd make a mistake. And he said, you're going to make mistakes. When you make a mistake, own it. Don't make an excuse for it. And then tell the client that's been impacted by it what you're going to do to try to make it right. And best piece of advice I could have been given. And something else I discovered on my own, which is a little harder for me because I'm kind of a people pleaser and I like everyone to be happy. But in business, everyone's not happy all the time. And maybe even I've had clients, they're not necessarily upset with me, but they're really upset about something that's going on in the transaction. And something I've learned, it takes a lot of time, takes some effort. But if there's someone that's really like they're really angry, they're really upset, I have learned for me, if I'm on the phone, if I'm emailing, say, hey, where are you right now? Okay, I can be there in 20 minutes. And I go and I sit down with them face to face. And that's been magic for me as far as dealing with tough personalities or maybe people who are upset about a situation. Is it really changes face to face. People have a hard time being mean face to face.
Wow. That is a great takeaway, right? Is especially it's been hard over the last year and a half to not have that interaction. Are we gonna, there's the big question, are we just gonna all stay online? Is it easier? But what a cool thing for you.
Face to face is magic.
Wow, I love that. Bob, what about you? You've been in the business a long time, lots of different places. As any piece of advice in business in general, of to-dos or not to-dos, or wish you would have known?
Well, I agree with what's been said prior. Collaboration is really important, and just mentorship and having people around you with maybe different skill sets that you can rely on. So I've been really fortunate. When I started in the business, I had a great mentor, and he was a top producer. He took me under his wing, and so he was a great resource. But like Bitsie mentioned, people make mistakes, and I think it is important. You have to take ownership of whatever you're doing. You have to take 100% ownership. If something goes sideways, whether it's your fault or somebody else's, then you just have to face it head on, come up with a solution and move on. And so I think that's really important. And So in my business, I have some friends and colleagues I've known for, 20, 25 years. And it's great because we contact each other every once in a while. And I might have somebody ask me a question about something that I kind of have more experience in. And then I have some really good colleagues that I can call up and say, hey, I haven't done this type of specialty program in a while. Who's the best lender right now as far as investors to work with who are going to be flexible, or how can we do this or that? So I think that's really important. And then the personal aspect too. It's any business. I think it's always personal. It's about the client. And it's been hard with COVID because we're cut off from our clients. I used to go to all my loan closings, and I had to stop doing that, because of company policy. And then some clients said, hey, we really like you, but we don't want to see anybody right now. We're too worried. So, that hopefully things are changing now. So hopefully that personal aspect where we get to all meet, go to the closings and that type of thing, hopefully that expands. And that's something I'm looking forward to.
I love that. I heard so many great things just now. Collaboration is huge. That's why I named my radio show Collaborative Connections. It's everything in business, right? Is who you surround yourself with, who you collaborate with. It just makes the world better. It makes our businesses easier, right? To collaborate with people who know what they're doing, who are good at experience, and to have peers and have those people to be able to bounce ideas off of and go, does this sound crazy? Or, I haven't had this experience quite yet. And, that they're not going to judge you, or they've been in the same boat before. That's one of my favorite things about this business, is getting to be that sounding board for clients. I've been an entrepreneur over 18 years. It's like the same thing. You've been in real estate a long time. You've owned a company a long time. It's like, people will ask me. I had one client say, my goal is to stump you. Every time I come to meet with you, I try to stump you, and I never can. It's just fun to get to bring all those. And because I surround myself with people that I know, like, and trust, that I can call, oh my gosh, I don't know about this. I don't understand this. So it's just, what a great thing. Speaking of peer groups, for you, Jeff, and for listeners, Conscious Capitalism Arizona is a great organization that is coming up in July, doing a peer thing. So look into that. Tempe Chamber, I've been a member of for a very long time. They have a business owners forum that meets once a month, and it's like a peer-to-peer. We all been there, done that. Hey, the auditors are out. Hey, I want to hire somebody. And it's a great group. So those are a couple options for you and listeners who want to have something. If you're local, we're doing it on Zoom right now, but even if you're not a Tempe Chamber member, even if you're not, live in Arizona, these are great organizations that you can plug into and find the resources, that you need. So I love that. Can you believe we've been speaking for almost an hour already? I can't believe it. What else? I'll go around and couple last thoughts, Bob. Anything in business, in mortgage, anything we didn't touch on that you'd like people to know? Something like, I love Jeff brought up our floors were torn up. Oh, great. Well, could have done that. Right? Shoot. Anything for listeners, something that we wouldn't normally think about to ask our, mortgage person before we buy a house, or, oh, we've been in this house 6 years. Oh, it's time to refinance. Or is it, right? Is there any piece of advice or a couple things, last thoughts of, take a few minutes, anything you can think of?
I would say for self-employed borrowers out there, I would tell them, don't be afraid to buy a house or apply for a loan. Things are getting a little bit better, but if you work with a good mortgage professional and a good real estate agent, you can navigate the waters. It's not that bad. So that's one thing I'd like to say, because I do get calls sometimes from self-employed clients, and they start out by saying, yeah, there's no way I'm going to qualify. I know you're probably going to tell me no. But I would say, don't be afraid to talk to a professional. It only takes a few minutes to talk to somebody and get a good idea of whether what you're planning makes sense and it's doable. So I would say things are improving. You know, if you've been waiting to refinance, to purchase, if you've been waiting to make some changes, reach out to a professional and just talk to them. It only takes a few minutes. They can give you good advice. And then if it's something that you want to do, you can move forward with it. And then I always tell clients too, the other thing is that if they are thinking about, let's say, purchasing, always start early with the lender. Get pre-qualified with a good local lender that has a good reputation. If you don't know the lender, if it's then, you know, check Yelp, check Google, Facebook, but start early and get pre-qualified, get all your ducks in a row. And then you can go out and you can meet with your agent. You can meet with a professional like Bitsie, and then you can go out and start looking for a house. And then you know exactly what you can afford. You know what your payment's going to be, and you know kind of the waters that you have to navigate before you do that. So that would be the one thing that I would say right now for a takeaway is don't be afraid of doing loans now. It is getting easier, but start early with your lender.
I love that. And, you know, people think, oh, I want to buy a house or I want to sell my house, call the realtor first. But, you know, maybe you talk to your mortgage broker, make it, you know, your banker first and your financial person. Okay, does this make sense? You know, we're selling this, we're buying this, you know, do we turn it around and buy something else? Like we've got to have that team, right? You've got, especially for a self-employed person, we have to know, what does our accountant say? What does our financial advisor say? And the mortgage lender. Do not just think like, oh, I'm just going to go do this and not, you know, not consult with your team, right? We talked about teams and having those people, and ask everybody. I didn't learn that early enough, you know, back in the day in real estate, right? Oh, we're, you know, the 2005, we're, you know, oh my gosh, everything's crazy. Oh, sure. You make this much money, you know, like you said, the lenders in the back closet who loaned me money on, you know, for whatever I felt like having. Right?
Well, and back then too, they had stated income, stated asset loans.
Oh yeah.
So if you had a 700, 720 FICO score, we didn't even care what you made or how much assets you had. So it's changed. And so like with self-employed clients, a lot of times the reason I always say, hey, at least talk with a lender before you go out there with an agent is because a lot of self-employed clients will say, oh, well, I made 100,000 last year. I'm golden. I can afford this $700,000 home. But then I get their tax returns and, whoa, wait a minute. You wrote off $80,000 in expenses. So you made 20,000. So you can't even afford that condo. Mm-hmm. So just to make the process easier for the client and also for the agent, I always say, talk to the lender and make sure you do your due diligence.
Yep, absolutely. Bitsie, what about you? Anything that we didn't touch on, or something you'd like people to know, you know, whether it's business, you know, being in business for yourself or being on a team or real estate in general?
Well, and I so strongly agree with everything Bob says. And if you'll just do what Bob says, it makes my job so much easier. But the other thing, we know we're in this super fast-paced market. We've talked about multiple offers on every home, and the home pops on the market today and it's under contract tomorrow. So what that means is, if you're my buyer, then when we see that home and I say, do you think you want it? Okay, sign here, sign here, sign here. I've got to get this offer over. So what I like to do with all my clients, especially first-time home buyers, but maybe it's been a few years since you bought a home and you haven't seen a purchase contract recently. What I like to do is sit down with clients before we go look at a house, and I like to go through every piece of paperwork with you, every document. And there's a lot of documents because, you know, lawyers. So there's lots and lots of documents, but I like to go through all of that with you. I will send you, I will email you a copy of it and give you a chance to read every line. And it's very reader friendly. You know, you can understand it, but there's just so much of it. And so I feel a lot more comfortable if I can present that to my clients. And then when that home pops up, they know everything in the contract. They understand the timelines. They understand all of their rights and responsibilities. And then I can say, sign here, sign here, sign here. And I can present that and hopefully get that home under contract for them. So I really want the consumer to think about that. You're going to have to sign quick. So know ahead of time what you're signing.
Prevention, right? We're back to prevention.
Right.
Prevention from the chaos or not knowing, or you didn't say, or whatever.
Exactly.
What a great practice in business in general. Read the stuff first, you know, because before you sign it. What about you, Jeff? Anything in business ownership or more tips you want to tell us about that I should have known a long time ago?
Well, prevention is always a key. And if a problem does, if you can't do preventative maintenance on your house, if something does pop up, number one thing is, please God, do not go on the internet and start reading about whatever it is you have, because I go to so many people and they have like, I don't know, like they're the, I don't know, the worst possible scenario ever, which 99.9% of the time is never going to happen. So just get off the internet, call a professional, call someone you like, know, like, and trust. I mean, that's who you want to do business with. That's who, I mean, clients come to me thinking that they're just hiring me, but I'm actually kind of interviewing them when I'm on the phone or meet with them and see if it's someone I want to work with too, because it goes both ways. And I'm sure most business owners can relate to that. So, you know, you anyone that's done any type of business long enough knows the I don't know, different personalities and stuff that you can run into. So um, I really like to work with people who I can build a relationship with and like take care of them long term, and that we can be long term partners. And it's pest control is my business, but I mean, I'm sure all of us have that same idea. And it's not really so much about the business or the money, but it's about like working with someone who really cares about their business and industry and wants to be client focused. And we all make mistakes, so it's like we learn from those. But like if we do make a mistake, most mistakes are easily correctable. And just like I hear so many stories where people try to call someone a million times trying to get a hold of them and no one returns their calls. I'm like, if you call us, we're going to get right back to you and we're going to take care of it. And that cements your relationship with the client. So I'm probably rambling on. I could probably talk forever, but that's a little tidbit for me. So
No, I love that. It's all about the relationships, right? You either know somebody in the business that you need, to get a hold of, or you Google somebody, and if you have great reviews like Jeff does online, that's an easy, right? Because then their experience. You see the reviews for 10 years running that you have 5-star reviews, right? Then somebody else trusted them to do it. But all of us in business, should and well, those of us in the room, of course, win-win-win relationships, right? So, and being client focused is the best part. Well, I really, really appreciate all of you being on the show with me today. Let us tell quickly before we close, tell us how people can get a hold of you. Bob, I'll start with you.
So you can Google me. You can look me up on Yelp, Goodrich Mortgage Team. I'm with Watermark Home Loans. And I'd love to help you if I can.
Thank you so much, Bob. Bitsie, what about you?
You can just email me at Bitsie, so my name, BITSIE, at theagentthatcares.com.
Nice. I love that.
Yeah, there's so many ways in today's technology to reach out to someone, but I mean, probably the quickest way would be call 480-968-0414. If for some reason we don't answer, it has a prompt on there. You can hit any button and then it will send you a text, and then we can text back and forth, which makes it pretty easy, which most of us nowadays prefer texting than talking anyway. But or if you want to leave a message, you're more than welcome, and I will get back to you right away. Or email alphapest@alphapestsolutions.com, or you could go to my website, alphapestsolutions.com, and there's many ways to contact me that way too. So all sorts of directions, but reach out and we'll try and help you out. Okay.
Thank you so much. And Jeff is in Tempe, Phoenix, and all surrounding areas in the Valley. And Bitsie, you do all over.
I do the greater Phoenix area.
And Bob?
I work throughout the entire state of Arizona, and then we do have the ability to work in some of the other states as well.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for listening to Collaborative Connections Radio Show and Podcast, sponsored by KLM Consulting. I'm your host, Kelly Lorenzen. Until next time, happy connecting.